So Leonard Kleinrock, whose name you just heard, you saw him with the big presentation, star of stage and stage here, UCLA, distinguished professor of computer science at the School of Engineering, and the man who will tell us why he called us all here today. Now, the mayor told you how he got his start, sort of. He did, find a crystal radio set plan and a Superman comic book, but he started his professional life and his life of crime at the same time, because he found everything to build that crystal set in his family apartment except an earphone, which he pilfered from a public pay phone booth. Now, you may have to look these up because both crystal radio sets and public phone booths are scarce on the ground these days, but he has fully reformed from his juvenile pilferage, and for the other, he has reformed our way of communicating with one another. Leonard Kleinrock.
I find it interesting that Pat had to talk about my theft in front of the mayor. Thank you, Pat. So you understand we're here to celebrate that first message. And basically, as you hear, it's launched what you now call the internet. Now, in this particular event, we're going to start off by talking about those early days and talking about what happened and how we got here. But instead of heralding the wonders and the strength of the internet we have today, we all know what they are. I want to talk more about the problematic issues, the things with which we're confronted, the dark side of the network, the issues, the things we have yet to deal with. In fact, I have to wonder, what happened to the internet I knew? Those early days when I had a very different culture. Working as a young scientist here, we had an ethos that was basically creating the culture, a culture articulated by words like ethics, free, open, shared, trusted, words you seldom hear when we talk about the internet that we have today. And basically, I'm concerned that the dark side emerged with enormous ferocity. Suddenly it came out. We've lost our way. We have to find some way to fix it collectively. This is not a one-profession task. So how do we get from there to here? Well, as an MIT student, I created a mathematical theory of networking, which would allow different kinds of computers to communicate with each other. Published the idea. By the way, if you want to look at the mathematics and the inside front cover of your program, you can enjoy it, if you like. But having done that, 1962, nobody cared. AT&T said it wouldn't work, and even if it did, they wanted nothing to do with it. They were not interested in building a network which would allow computers to talk to each other. They had a voice network. Fortunately, a few years before that, Sputnik went up. The United States was caught in a bad position, number 2 in the world in science and technology. So President Eisenhower created the Advanced Research Projects Agency, ARPA, which began to fund research across the country. And by the mid-60s, they had basically created some wonderful capability at specific sites around the country. And they decided they want to connect those computers together so they could share the resources they each had. Well, what perfect setup. Now we're going to be able to implement this network. So indeed, they got together, they formed a group, and decided to make this happen. Well, as a result, UCLA became the first node of that network. And the very first piece of equipment ever on the internet is right over here. It's hiding. It's not a beautiful girl. It's a beautiful machine. That was the first router. It launched the internet, and it's made out of a military-hardened machine. You can't break it. It was meant to live alone in the corner. But I don't want all of you to do that. So it came. It launched the thing that we call the internet today. And on October 29th, 1969, 10:30 at night, as you've heard many times already, and you'll hear more during this meeting, the first message was sent, LO. Well, for 25 years, this network functioned as a scientific object, as a research system, as an experiment. We had 25 years to curate it, fix it with good engineering to build up a foundation that would sustain itself. Nobody in the group was interested in patenting this, taking private ownership. We got our reward by producing good results that others were interested in. We were basically trying to create something that humanity could use. We were nerds creating new technology. But around 1994, things began to change. The dot-coms came online, the backbone network went to gigabit speeds, the World Wide Web opened up, and suddenly it now reached out to the consumer world and the general world. Amazon formed in 1994, the Netscape browser came out at the same time, and on April 12th, 1994, the first broad-based spam message hit the network. Two lawyers, Cantor and Siegel, they started advertising their services for hire to help people get into a green card lottery. Now here we were, and we saw this advertisement come out on our research network. It was illegal. How dare they? We sent email back. Stop. Cease and desist. Shame on you. How dare you? We sent so much email back to them that we took down their server. So as an unintended consequence of the first spam message, we created the first denial of service attack. Such is life. But the cat was out of the bag. The commercial world said, wow, this is a place we can make money in. This is not a research network. It's a powerful shopping machine. It's a gossip chamber. It's an entertainment channel. It's a social club. And the internet suddenly became a money-making machine. The profit motive basically began to dominate. We no longer pursued moonshots. We were taking baby steps of innovation because the whole profit issue in dealing with shareholders got in the way of where this thing was going. For example, we'd be asked to make a 5% improvement on a Bluetooth communication system instead of building an internet. So the focus was with tiny baby steps instead of grand challenges, and we'll hear more about that during the meeting today. But basically, what had been a convivial online community became one full of competition, antagonism, and extremism that we're suffering today. And as the millennium ended, our revolution took a more disturbing turn. Basically, things we have to grapple with today. The power of the network was to enable anybody, small, poor, anywhere in the world, with any kind of a computer and a connection to the network, to reach out to millions of people, have a voice, millions of people instantly, at no cost of time or money, anonymously. What power! What a perfect formula for the dark side. And so the crazies out there started monkeying with our network and trying things, and started annoying us with spam and hacking, etc. The dark side appeared. I said, well, the network's acting like a teenager now. It'll get over it. It's disobedient, it's unpredictable, it's nasty, and it'll grow up and get mature. Well, unfortunately, it didn't happen. Instead, it got worse. It's now no longer a teenager. We now see nation states trying all kinds of things. The 2010 example of Stuxnet, malware, really hit the world. Denial of service attacks, basically that can immobilize critical financial structures. Malicious botnets that can cripple our essential infrastructure. And other advanced technologies can be used by governments to weaken our democratic institutions. We've all seen that. It's in the papers all the time these days. Organized crime comes in, international money laundering. The extremists, we gave everybody a megaphone, and everybody used it. There were voices all over the network. So who do you listen to? The extremists on both ends. They make the loudest noise, and you ignore what's in the middle, which is kind of the sanity space. I'm also concerned that nations are beginning to put boundaries around their networks. China is an example, Russia. We can see it all over the world happening. And if that happens and we end up with a disintegrated network, a balkanized network, we will lose the ability for that open flow across the world, which was the essence and the power of the internet. We have to take steps to try to prevent that. So what should we do now? You know, returning to where we were is a really complex challenge, and it's one that no one group can do by themselves. It's going to basically take a collection, a joint effort by all the interested parties, and that includes you and everyone else. For example, we should be willing to pressure government officials and entities that zealously monitor and adjudicate and take care of internet abuses such as cyber attacks, data breaches, and piracy. Governments should also have the function of providing a forum whereby the stakeholders can get together and try to sort things out instead of individually trying to pursue their own interests. Citizen users, you need to hold websites responsible for what they're doing to you. When is the last time Facebook asked you what privacy policy you want applied to you? Probably never. Well, you should be able to articulate your privacy policy in a very simple fashion, maybe with a diagram that says, I'll take this, I don't want that, give me this, etc. And then the website should give you their clear description, not 20 pages of legalese that you can't read and you agree to. They say, here's what we're going to do to you. And you can compare and say, now wait a minute, I don't like that, I'll give this, you give that. A negotiation can take place so they can customize the privacy policy adhered and presented to you. And they may say, wait, we can't give a customized privacy policy to billions of people. Baloney. They absolutely can. They already give you customized ads every time you turn on a website. So they can certainly take that step as well. And by the way, some of the efforts by the GDPR and also the California CCPA rules that are being laid out by governments as to how networks should deal with privacy. Scientists should also and need to contribute to this. We have the ability to create some protections, better encryption methods. So in fact, if a database is stolen, it can't be used. We should be able to send data around a network without saying where it came from and where it's going to. So if somebody captures it, they can't do anything with it. These technologies are being worked on right now. Blockchain is another possibility, a distributed ledger that can keep track of irrefutable and immutable actions and the transactions. So basically, my message is, if we work together, all these industries and groups, we can make changes happen. It might be possible to return to the internet I once knew. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Tony Shah and Sam Coffin.
Good morning, everyone. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Just to clarify, I'm Tony. This is Sam. Our role here today is to get you involved in the proceedings. We're here to help you ask questions, to offer your opinion, and we really want your feedback because really you have the opportunity here today to help shape the conversation, not just today, but going forward. So to that end, Sam is the CEO of a company called Poll Everywhere. We're going to be using Poll Everywhere today to collect your responses and to give you an opportunity to make comments. Sam, why don't you tell us all about it?
Absolutely. So go ahead and take out your phones. Do make sure that they are on silent, but pick up any browser and navigate to pollev.com/UCLA. If your seat and your phone allows, you can go ahead and scan the QR code. That will work great as well. If you happen not to have a smartphone or having some sort of connectivity issue, you can also always text. Open a text message, address it to 22333, and put UCLA in the body of the message. This is the place that we will be returning to throughout the day to host live polling, as well as to take your questions for the panelists. Merely come back here, refresh your page, and you will be able to participate in this ongoing conversation. Rest assured, Poll is an internet company. We do not spam. We do not share your information. And we are very proudly GDPR compliant.
Shall we take our first question?
Let's do it.
Okay. So there are basically two types of questions we're going to be using today. This first one asks you for an open-ended response, and then we'll make a word cloud out of that. Oh, here we go. So folks have already started to respond.
Terrific.
What single word best describes your feelings about the internet today? Feel free to make an emotional response, informational one, whatever. Excited is rising to the top there. The other type of poll we'll be doing is essentially a multiple choice, so you'll get to see that during the next session. All right, so keep this page bookmarked. You come back to exactly the same page for every question through the day. And the other thing to mention is that for about the first half of each session, you'll have the opportunity to ask a question of the panelists who'll be up here. We'll get that information to the moderator of each session, and they'll do their best to incorporate your question.